That had to be maybe one of the worst performances I've probably ever seen in recent long memory for UCLA football. There's no explaining, there's no sugarcoating it. That was just complete utter crap.
You are Locked On UCLA, your daily podcast on the UCLA Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I'm not sure what was worse in recent terrible UCLA losses, but that has to be up there for one of the worst performances, not just a decade plus, but maybe in the new millennia for UCLA football. That was utterly atrocious in a 17-7 loss to Arizona State. Welcome to Locked On UCLA. I'm Zach Anderson-Yoxsimer, and the Bruins not only just laid an egg, they practically didn't even show up in this one. There was effort. It just never came at the right time. Boneheaded plays and complete, utter dumb decisions. Coaching, players, everything that led to this other loss. Swinging gate, high school-like flag football offense plays. You had Arizona State practically sitting on the football for a minute in the fourth quarter, committing like 3 straight penalties on 4th and 40. There were so many dumb things that made UCLA utterly embarrassed to flat out lose this game at home in the Rose Bowl, which honestly was not an absolutely terrible crowd for this one. It could have been much worse, and yet they came out to see complete, utter disaster. I've been one of the last few remaining semi-backers of Chip Kelly, and I said after, if they lost to Arizona State, I'm jumping off the bandwagon. There's no way you can lose at home to Arizona State, who's been scrappy. Scrappy is a good word to consider what the Sun Devils are this season. In a lot of games, a lot of teams have Washington. There's been so many games they've been in, just haven't won. And yet, in a battle of their third string quarterback versus UCLA's dynamic but still third string quarterback, the Bruins were just lifeless until the fourth quarter with a touchdown pass from Colin Schlee. Defensively, they made some plays, but they were just getting outclassed by goofy formations until the end when they made the big boneheaded penalty when it could have gotten the ball back for UCLA. A penalty on 4th down that extended a drive, a pass interference. It's just so many dumb mistakes that UCLA made in this game. 9 penalties for 86 yards, turned it over. 0 for 4 on 4th down, twice had it 4th and short, deep in Arizona State territory, coming with 0 points, probably afraid of kicking a field goal because their field goal kicking has been atrocious this season. And there's just no other explanation for UCLA to continue the way this has gone. This is just absolutely terrible. I was more under the impression that maybe Dante Moore might be healthy enough to play this game. Apparently not. Chip Kelly saying Garbers and Moore only available on emergency basis to play this game. And I'm not sure what more screamed emergency than UCLA getting outclassed in this game. They couldn't do what they wanted to do. 3 for 15 combined on 3rd down and 4th down in this game. They outrushed the Sun Devils, 183 yards. They're just, you can read numbers. We can read numbers, but it comes down to business. Where does UCLA go from here? Does the UCLA athletic department, does Martin Germain, does he pull the trigger after this game? Or does he wait like the last few UCLA coaches and pull the trigger after the SC game? Because there's nobody in their right mind that thinks the Bruins could keep up with SC on the road against Caleb Williams with the offense they have at this moment. The defense is going to play as well as they can under Danton Lane, but that's a tall order to ask. So the writing's on the wall for Chip. Do you go in-house to solve the problem and use the exciting young defensive coordinator who could easily get hired somewhere else to be a defensive coordinator with a much higher pay grade or be a head coach somewhere else? Or do the Bruins recognize what they have in front of them and hire internally? Think of all the big names they have in college football. They have Ken Niumatalolo as a director of leadership. They have so many good people in this locker room, in this program, that whether coach or not, that could lead this team, hopefully, in the right direction, just from a coaching standpoint, head coach, assisting, everything in between. And yet they sit here lifeless, 6-4, making stupid mistakes on the field again and again and again. You can go who they decided at quarterback. I back Chip there. When it came to the freshman youngster, I understood the change to Garbers, even though they initially said it was a more injury, and then Garbers won the job again. And yet in a season where the schedule broke their way, where they're going to make a big move to the Big Ten, there's just too much riding on the line to let this go any longer than it has to. I'm not sure how Chip can save himself beyond this season. I'm not sure how the fan base would respond if Chip Kelly is still the coach after the season, even with an SC win. I could say with the biggest, baddest, big-time win against SC on the road, as great as that would feel, that would just still not make everybody feel as great as they should, because this team should be a lot better than 6-4, or their performances should be a lot better than what it looked like against Arizona State at home, a team that came in 2-7, 1-5 in conference, and the Bruins were 3-score favorites. Well, let's pull up this prediction here. Okay, let's take a look. Yeah, that didn't happen. 35-14, no bueno. But we'll leave that up there. You see the raising up of Carson Steele if you're watching on YouTube, that graphic there? That didn't happen. It was more Arizona State swallowing him up and tackling him for loss, or Colin Schley, or whoever it was, fourth down again and again when the Bruins needed to make a big play. That did not happen. Let's take a look at some keys to the game. Don't mess around. Well, it was Arizona State that messed around and darn punked them on their home field with ASU chance. Spreading the field as wide as you possibly can, sitting on the football, committing 3 straight, false start, delay game penalties back-to-back in the fourth quarter to take as much time off the clock just to win this game. The Bruins needing to run the football, they did until they couldn't. On 4th and short, didn't want to get crazy innovative, switch things up, ran right up the middle, got popped in the mouth, couldn't get a single yard when they needed to, deep in Sun Devil territory. That would have basically won the game. If they got any of those first downs, they could have done that. Forced turnovers, I expected to, I wanted to. The Bruins could have done a lot better. I know there's the near pick, but it was an incompletion. Next play action from Scadaboo for a touchdown toss, right? And then all of a sudden, it's 10-0. The Bruins looking lifeless already in the second half. Get back in it, and then the costly penalty after they were forcing Arizona State to punt. One of the dumbest, stupidest things on the field you could do. I haven't looked back to see if it was a complete acting job or not, but still, to even put yourself in that situation. So to just even get baited like that over and over again, the offsides, the pass interference, the third and long conversion, basically because of the unsportsmanlike conduct there. That is just unacceptable. And everybody who covers UCLA is going to write, talk, decide who the next candidate is. How about how Chip Kelly needs to be gone? Some have gone a lot further, a lot earlier about firing Chip Kelly. Some have already turned the page to basketball, which is going to be its own hellscape in one way or another. That was just completely, utterly embarrassing. I can remember when UCLA lost, unfortunately, to that ugly team across town, and that spelled the end for Rick Neuheisel. I remember when it spelled the end in a much closer affair, but still the end for Jim Mora in 2017. Then, my mind, I think of the ugly loss to Notre Dame back in 2007 when that was just kind of as ugly as this game was. The Bruins down to the third, fourth-string quarterback. They couldn't do anything against the Fighting Irish, who were terrible in 2007. And UCLA was lifeless in that game, still early on in this season, but that spelled danger in a bowl-eligible year that ended up in a heartbreaking bowl loss to BYU. And then eventually, after the SC game, out was Darrell. Does UCLA have the stones to do it before SC? They just gave Chip Kelly an extension to get all these recruits. They're getting guys committing and believing in the Chip Kelly system of sorts. But how do you, when you have big commits coming, you have multiple players trying to believe in the Chip Kelly way of thinking when the fans aren't there, the players are looking like they're not there more and more. They're putting their heart in the line, but that Scatterboot touchdown was just utterly ridiculous at the end, where he ran into people, nobody was tackling. They're just trying to hit him with shoulder pads, or the Arizona State offensive players with shoulder pads, and then pop him on the ground instead of wrapping up tackling. When it gets sloppy in your best part of the game, when you need them to step up, there's already talk of disunity. Chip Kelly is already getting fiery with reporters at practice. Disunity, you're trying to break up my team. Kind of what he was saying already, and probably took the blame. I think I read some things about him taking the blame of sorts after the game. How much blame can you take? How would you not take the blame before and after each loss already this season? 506 years, and I'm not even sure a win at SC can save them, because, it's like SC's getting tossed around. They're getting tossed around. That's just, it doesn't feel as good if you win at SC this year. It's going to feel great, absolutely. I'll be excited if the Bruins go in, probably big underdogs in the Coliseum, to win that game next week, if they even consider a way to do that. I'm not sure how healthy the quarterback situation is, how healthy the locker room is for the Bruins to even pull that off. I know rivalry can instill some inner emotion despite what could be crazy turmoil. SC having their own kind of craziness, right? More on the defensive side, UCLA leadership-wise and offensively. So you got two teams that are going in spiraling directions. They're going to meet next week. And I'm not sure even a UCLA win in that game can lead to Chip Kelly staying, even winning the next two games. Because this game particularly, I fought for Chip Kelly to stay, even with the, I guess, apparently misguided thought process that the Bruins would win this game handily regardless of who would start at quarterback. That was clearly mistaken. Clearly mistaken. That was just one of the worst games and worst performances the Rose Bowl has probably ever seen in a college football game. And there have probably been some clunkers. I've been there. You've probably been there, seen them, watched them, been in person. Stop going because you're tired of seeing those types of games. And the Bruins laid an egg, not against a Cal team that's been semi-scrappy, battling for bowl eligibility, not against a team that's pretty good. That was their first home loss of the season to arguably one of the worst teams they're going to face at home all season long outside of NC Central, an FCS team. There's just nothing that can really save the Bruins in the Chip Kelly era at this moment. Looking for candidates, again, I throw out Danton Lynn, get a little crazy, bump him up, and you wonder, what about the offense, Zach? Well, go find an offensive coordinator. Go find Colin Klein at Kansas State right now and try and bring him over from the Big 12. And he might be your offensive coordinator for a Danton Lynn-led team. Or you can go and find someone else and find somebody who's sitting on the sidelines. I don't know. I'm just not really sure where you go with candidates. People could throw out big names. I remember when Chip Kelly's name was getting thrown around at 17. It was like, oh, can they pony up, give money? Remember, they got a deficit. So you can't get too crazy for a public UC system that's going to use all this Big Ten money. One, on funding for the other sports, just to get the deficit in the athletic department fixed. For extra travel, for extra support for their athletes going in to extended travel, missing more classes. So we can't get too crazy about who they can get to, one, pay off the deficit, two, buy out Chip Kelly's contract, three, then negotiate the right deal heading into who could be the next candidate for UCLA head coach. I think an internal option can be good. I'm going to have to sit more and do a bit more research as to who could be a truly qualified candidate. I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, Urban Meyer, ha, ha, ha. No, let's get realistic about this and think, where could UCLA go? At the moment, I think Lynn, as a not goofy, but an interesting internal hire with what he's done defensively for the UCLA Bruins this season. And I just don't know at the top of my head at this moment where they can go. That was just utterly garbage. Yeah, that just inexplicable what happens in the Rose Bowl. As you can see, I am bundled up because I was freezing all night long in Pasadena to watch that crap fest. And in the end, it stunk up since the opening kickoff until the final whistle was blown. For a crowd that wasn't particularly lifeless coming in, it wasn't obviously as energetic as the Colorado game, but fans slowly trickled in wanting to believe. And then the life just got sucked out. It was choked out and destroyed after this one. There's no other way to put it. Just utterly disgraceful. Mistake top to bottom. Mistakes everywhere. And it's not year one in a rebuild. I was getting chastised by dear beloved UCLA friends. You're still backing Chip Kelly? What horse are you backing there? You're just backing a loser. And it appears his day is come and gone, because there's no way to be positive Pete on this day, right? There's no way to pump positivity. That's just a bit frustrating in a day where you had an easy win laying out there for you at home and they couldn't perform. Even when they had multiple chances to score, kick a field goal to tie the game early, they didn't go there multiple times. When they had the stop they needed to win this ugly game, choked that and allowed Arizona State not only to go down, kick a field goal, waste time, but score a touchdown. Emblematic of other Arizona State wins at UCLA in recent years when the Bruins are trying to compete, win games late in the Pac-12 season. That's just absolutely terrible. In the comments, tell me your thoughts. Probably very negative, so keep it calm, keep it clean, but we know where this is going. 2, what is your worst memory of UCLA football in the Rose Bowl? Because that was terrible. Utterly disgraceful. There's heartbreaking. There's ones that crush your soul, but there's just outright, they just took a dump in the middle of a glorified stadium, and just terrible. There's just no way to explain it other than something's got to change. And they have the power to do so. Will they do it? Do they have the finances to do it? Big Ten money's coming in. Not yet, but it will be. Where do they go? That's it. That's a question and a phone call waiting for the UCLA athletic director to make or not make. And from there, we'll see where the already disintegrating UCLA fan base goes. They haven't lost me. They've just ticked me off, pissed me off to the end. But I've had it here with Chip. We're done. To chip or not to chip? No chip. He needs to dip. Well, I certainly thought it was a prize pick back in 2017 for when the Bruins hired Chip Kelly. Wasn't the case. But you know what's a prize pick for you? Prize Picks is the fastest and easiest way, more exciting ways to play daily fantasy sports. All you got to do is choose more or less on 2 to 6 stat projections for any player, and you can watch your winnings roll in. You can go play in the specials league. Oh, you cool? You think you're special? Absolutely. You can get combo projections, like 10.5 combo, more or less of 3-pointers made in receptions between a LeBron James, I know he's a little banged up now, and Travis Kelce. Is T Swift going to show up? Are you going to show up with those picks? Go to the community league. You can play against big name comedians and rappers like Meek Mill, Andrew Schultz, if you want to go with Prize Picks. And they've got injury insurance. Bruins better have some insurance for this coaching change probably about to come, but you can get that reboot policy with Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege for first deposit match up to $100. Daily fantasy sports made easy. Oh boy, speak of lines, speak of numbers, speak of trying to get the numbers in. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, probably would have gotten a lot of money from me because I was absolutely dumb. Minus 17, 2 touchdown, 3-score favorites in this game with the Bruins. And if you got a winner, your team wins, that's $150 in bonus bets, winning any $5 money line bets. I thought this was a 21-point win for the Bruins. That was incorrect. But if some of you foresaw what was going to happen tonight, you could have gotten so much more in bonus bets. And if you like having fun on a daily Saturday or Sunday, and go to FanDuel. There's no better time than to join now to get in on the action. The app's super easy to use. Spreads, player props, and more. Go to FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL. Well, that's going to do it. Very frustrating. We'll get to grades. I'm going to tell you now, probably F all across the board on Monday. And we'll talk about it and see what happens. If anything dramatic happens between now and then, or we wait into SC week as dramatically down as UCLA and we all are, and look at some candidates. Try to pump some positivity then, but I understand the frustration. There's no explanation for how it looked and why it looked tonight. I know there's injuries and everything, but there's no excuses. Arizona State's been playing without their starting quarterbacks, backup quarterbacks, down to a fourth string the week prior and came out, put out an effort on the road after just getting embarrassed. And the Bruins came out and got embarrassed tonight. Can they do that next week? We sure hope so. It still probably might not save the head coach, but it might save our senses and enjoyment of the season. For now, UCLA loses 17-7 to Arizona State. One of the worst football games I have probably ever watched. And hopefully you probably didn't watch it. If you did, I'm sorry. We'll enjoy the pain together. UCLA fans, I know you don't want to do it. Hands up. 8 clap time, baby. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. UCLA. UCLA, fight, fight, fight. Beat SC. Go Bruins. This has been Locked On UCLA. Zach signing off. Go Bruins.